Hello and welcome to this session of PD in your PJs. You should hear us talking, and if not, you can try to reconnect. After this webinar, you will get the recording and slides sent to you in an email because you have already registered. We will take questions at the end. However, if you have any, burning questions as we're going through this presentation, you can type them into the question box in your control panel for the webinar. And Julie is here with me today, and she's going to be tackling some of those. Just want to note that you are here in this webinar because you've already attended Brand New to Seesaw 1. We had our first session of that actually yesterday, and this is going to basically continue on from that point. So if you don't know anything about Seesaw, this is probably not the best place to start because we're really going to focus today on getting started as a teacher. In Brand New to Seesaw 1, we really focused on experiencing, what is Seesaw, why would you use it, and how do students get started. But another reminder, it's helpful if you have a second device ready. I'm suggesting that because I'm going to do a lot of live demos here today. So you might want to be setting up your Seesaw class while I'm showing you how to do that. And you can do that on your second device as we are getting started here. So again, just have that ready so you yourself can play in your own account if you choose to. So welcome, this is Brand New to Seesaw 2. So again, we're continuing our conversation from Brand New to Seesaw 1 to keep you going with Seesaw. So the plan for today is we're really gonna focus on the teacher aspect of Seesaw. Things like creating your class settings. We're gonna talk about how to get families invited. We're gonna talk about implementing Seesaw with your students, and we have a great guide to show you, so it will give you the step-by-steps for how to make that happen. And then again, we're going to talk about your next steps. Where are you going to go from here? And at the end, we're going to have time for questions as well. So again, I'm Angela. I've taught for 15 years, and I was in a 5 iPad classroom. So one of the things people were discussing yesterday in the Brand New to Seesaw was, well, do I need to be one-on-one? I only have, 4 devices or 1 device. It's okay. You can really rock Seesaw no matter what your device setup is. Right now, I work for Seesaw full-time, and I lead the community team here. So Julie is also on the line here with us. Hi, Julie. Say hi to everyone.
Hi, Angela. Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here with you, and I'm here to answer questions, so don't hesitate to type them in, and I'll help you as fast as I can.
Fabulous. And Julie's coming to Seesaw from her high school classroom where she used Seesaw daily with her high school students. So we are going to start by looking at Seesaw from the teacher perspective. So I'm actually going to jump into a Seesaw class right now. This is one that I had set up yesterday for our Brand New to Seesaw for pre-K2 teachers. Now this looks pretty similar to what your students will see. I know that I'm a teacher right now because in the upper left I see that it says teacher, and it also has, my name as well. From the teacher's perspective, I'm right now in the journal view. So in journal view, you are going to be able to scroll and see all of the items that your students have added to Seesaw in one spot. You are also able to review items that are coming in. So I see right now that I have 1 unapproved post, so I'm going to tap there. People must be watching our webinar and going for it. So they're playing around as a student and adding content to our class. Also, from the teacher perspective, I said I'm in the journal view. Up here next to the green add button, you'll see this little calendar. Now, if you tap calendar view, what's great about it is this gives you a way to jump and see items added on a specific date, all of them on one screen. So for example, if I want to see the items that have been added today, I'm going to tap here, and I'm going to see a thumbnail of all of the items that have been added to Seesaw today. So this is great, for example, if maybe you want your students to do a quick video response and you want to see them all on one page, everyone's response. Maybe you're doing a quick assessment check and you want to see all of those responses on one page. This is a perfect thing for that. It also allows you to easily get back to content that maybe was added months ago without having to scroll. I'm going to toggle back up here to feed view, and then I'm again in my journal feed. The next thing I want to show you here as a teacher is you have the inbox. So the inbox is where you are going to see any student announcements or family announcements that you have sent. You'll also see here notifications, which are all the things happening in your Seesaw class. That's where you're going to see them appear. We also have a spot for Skills View if you're using Seesaw Plus or Seesaw for Schools. This will get you into all the skills you've created. And then we have an option for your blog. And again, this class doesn't have a blog created, but that's where you would find that as well. So I'm going to go back to our journal view here. I want to show you one more thing from the teacher perspective before we jump into creating your own Seesaw class and account. You'll notice the green add button, which you're really familiar with from the student perspective. From the teacher perspective, if I tap this, I have two choices. I can post to a student journal, and if I select that, that is going to take me to all of these creation tools that students can use. You as a teacher can also use those and add content to a student's portfolio if you need to. But let's go back to the green add button. I can also send an announcement. So I can send an announcement to all of my students, all of my families, or all of my students and families. So what this is just a text announcement. I'm just going to say, you know, spelling test tomorrow, something not super snazzy, but I'm going to send that to my students. So my students get that announcement and it doesn't become part of their portfolios. I can also, like I said, send announcements to families, and then families will get that announcement in their inbox on Seesaw, and they can actually reply back to me, the teacher, in the form of a private message. So keep that in mind as well when you're thinking about all the ways that you're communicating with families. So what we're going to do next, so I wanted to clarify a couple things there, but what we're going to do next is actually create our Seesaw account. So this is the time of our presentation when you can play along with me on your second device. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start, and I'm projecting right now from a MacBook. So you can do this on the web, or you can even tap your app, Seesaw, and get started with your teacher account. So we're going to do that right now. And again, grab your second device and feel free to play along. So again, I'm at app.seesaw.me. I'm going to select I'm a teacher. And then I'm going to create my account. So I am going to create my account, my first and last name. And what you're going to do is enter your email address and a password, confirm your password, and then create your teacher account. It's going to give you some prompts about what Seesaw is, how your students are going to use Seesaw, ensuring that this is a safe space and everything requires teacher approval, and that inviting families helps them stay in the loop about their child's learning. So now I'm ready to create my class. I'm going to start with a first grade class. So I'm just going to type the name, Mrs. Gadke's first grade, and I always put the year when I was creating my classes, and then I'm going to choose my grade level. I'm going to do the green check, and then QR sign-in is what has been selected for me. That means basically here, if you're creating a class pre-K through third grade, we are going to recommend your students sign in with a QR code. And that basically means all they have to do is tap I'm a student, scan that code, they're in, ready to go. Now if you're thinking, I don't want to do that, I actually want my students to sign in using their email or Google account, you can just tap this down here and you're all set. So let's continue here with creating my account. I am going to put in my student names, and I can type them in one by one, or I can also paste a list. So I have a few students in, so I'm going to hit the green check, and there's my class. It's created and ready to go. So now my students can start using Seesaw, because I can just go down here to student code. I can go to print class QR poster, and my poster for students to sign in is right here. So it gives you some directions, and there is your poster already created for you by Seesaw, so your students can sign in. Again, they would go to the app, tap I'm a student, and scan to get in. Now, let's talk about quickly setting up an email class. So if I'm a teacher, I can create multiple classes. So say I'm working with older students, I'm going to create a new class. This time I'm going to say I'm working with 7th grade. So I'm going to say Mrs. Gadke's 7th grade science. Okay. This is going to select to have email Google account sign in, which that works for me because my students are all ready for that. So I'm just going to do the check mark. You'll notice I didn't have to put students in. In this way, when you're creating your class for students with email Google sign in, they actually just join via a join code. So if I go right here and I go to connect students, basically what's going to happen is it is going to walk me through the steps of connecting my students, and it's really easy. They are basically going to go to app.seesaw.me, choose I'm a student. They'll use your class code to get in, so I can just click on student code here, just like I did in the other class, and it says right here what your students will do. They're going to enter that code and then they're added. Super simple. So that's how you can create your classes and your account. So what I'm going to do next in this presentation is talk a little bit about class settings. So in order to do that, let's jump back into this class for a moment. So as you get started with Seesaw, you might want to think about changing how your class is set up, because really you can personalize it any way you want and then always change it later. In the upper right, when you're signed in as a teacher, there is this little wrench icon. You might call it a spanner if you're somewhere else in the world, but I'm going to click on that. And then up pops my class settings. Now here is where you can do lots of things. Anything related to how your class is set up is going to be found here. So we have our class name, the grade level. We can here on manage teachers. I could click there and I could invite a co-teacher for this class. I can also change the class theme. So let's say I want this class to have a red theme. I can do that. I can also change my class icon. I could upload if I could talk, upload an image for this one. Let's change it to here. Sounds good. And again, this is just telling me that this is set up as a class code with shared devices. Now, if you're working with littles and they have their own devices, they're one-to-one, you can actually tap here and change it to class code one-to-one devices. Basically, what that means is that students can add from their own device, but it just eliminates a step of them having to select their name at the end when they add content. So it's a little shortcut. This is where I can also manage students. So if I need to add students to my class or change student icons, I can go here to manage students. I can add more students down here. So that's helpful to know. This is also under students where you can decide, do you want students to see each other's work? Turn that on or off. You can turn off items require approval. I suggest leaving that on. And you can also turn on enable item editing. Basically, this is a feature that a lot of teachers use, so I usually turn that on. And what that allows students to do is from an item, they can tap the 3 dots under the item and copy and edit that. That's a little bit more advanced for you just getting started, but just know that that's there. This is also where you can turn on family access, class blogs, create folders, manage skills, all sorts of things. So anything related to your class is going to be in your settings. Just for a moment, let's bump back up to the student section here. If I go into student likes and comments, I have some choices here. Right now, all of these are turned on. So students can like, students can comment on each other's work, and comments require approval. If I'm starting off and I maybe haven't practiced digital citizenship yet at the beginning of the year in my classroom, I could always turn commenting or likes off, and then later I could turn them on. So in my kindergarten classroom, we started with likes on. We did a lot of work with talking about commenting, and then we turned those on as well. So these are settings that you can change multiple times depending on whatever you're doing in your classroom. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, checking back in. Julie, should we pause for a moment to see if there's any questions specific to the class setup or sign in that people, really have a burning desire to know more about?
Hi, Angela. Hi, everybody. A couple of good questions that have been coming up. It sounds like we do have some experienced Seesaw teachers here, and they're just wanting to know what they should do with last year's classes and if they should keep the same class or create a new one, and same question for the blog. Do you want to weigh in on that for a minute?
Yeah, so I'll talk about that quickly. So yes, what you're going to do at the start of every year, because you have new students, you're going to archive your last year's class. So you'll just sign in, you'll go to the wrench icon, and then to the very bottom, you're just going to tap archive class. And then you'll just create a new class. So in your upper left, you'll go create new class, and then you're all set. In terms of the blog feature, your blog is connected to the specific class. So you'll need to start a class, a fresh class that year, and then with that comes the new blog connected to that class. Any other questions, Julie?
Well, this is an interesting one, and I just wanted some clarification. What do they do if they've created their account, but they don't see the word teacher in the top left, like it says under your name in the top left?
So they've created their teacher account?
Yeah, and so it says their name, but the word teacher is not visible. Is that some kind of
Yeah.
a mistake?
So right now, I am on the web. So if you're looking on an iOS device, for example, or another tablet, that word teacher might not appear yet. That's a change we're making to make it more specific for all teachers. But if you see your name in the upper left, you know you're signed in as a teacher. You also see the wrench icon, you know you're signed in as a teacher as well. All right, we're going to keep cruising. We'll come back to more questions in a little bit, but I want to talk about families because I have to say, when I started Seesaw, this was one of my most panicked things. I thought, oh goodness, I'm loving Seesaw in my classroom. This is amazing. I'm learning from my students. I'm getting insights into their thinking. But the family part scared me because I thought it was going to create a lot of hassle for me. It was going to create a situation where, you know, I just envisioned the worst happening. And quite honestly, I started with just a few families because I thought, I don't know. I don't know what this is going to be like. But within a few days of them being connected, the response from them was through the moon. They were so excited. They were beyond enthusiastic with the conversations that they could have with their students at home. So this example here is one of my kiddos that took a picture of this tangram puzzle, and the challenge was they had to make it into a square. So he went home that night and was talking to his parents at the dinner table, and they're like, what are you talking about? I don't know what tangrams are. I don't know what you mean. He said, look in Seesaw. So they looked in Seesaw, they recreated tangrams at home and solved this puzzle of making those tangrams into a square. So both the student was so empowered and the family just thought that would have been a missed opportunity for us. So the things that your students are adding to Seesaw really spark that conversation at home. And it's something that in my 15 years of teaching, I have not quite experienced this level of engagement and support for what was going on in my classroom. I think families get anxious when they don't know what's going on. They don't maybe know what is happening in the classroom or what their students are doing. And when they're hearing from their students on a regular basis as they're adding to Seesaw, it takes all of that away. So I highly recommend getting families connected as soon as possible to Seesaw. And it is super easy. When you're signed in as a teacher, all you have to do is tap that Invite Families button in the bottom right. And then basically what you're going to do is, I'm actually going to jump in. Well, maybe I'll just show you here. Basically what you can do is you're going to come to a pop-up screen once you hit Invite Families that tells you to turn on Enable Family Access. So let me go into our class to demonstrate this because this will make a lot more sense. So I'm going to go to Invite Families. In the bottom right, I'm going to turn on Family Access. And then in elementary school, I always sent home the paper invites, which I love. If you're working with bigger kids and you think email is better, you can do this option. Right now, let's go to print paper invites. So this is going to be created for my families right now. Each student in my class is going to have their own personalized handout. And there's nothing I've done before literally hitting that button live here. So there are instructions here for you, and then here we go. We see Karina's handout. So it's some information for families, And then it tells them what to do. They're going to download the Seesaw Family app, which is completely free. They're going to create their account, and then they're going to scan this QR code. This QR code is only for their child's journal. They don't see any other work in your Seesaw class. They only see their own child's work. So they scan that and you're ready to go. So as you can see here, these are already created for all of my students that I have connected to Seesaw. When you send this home to families, they can connect up to 10 family members. So, you know, mom and dad could be connected. If they have grandma and grandpa in a different country or a different state that could support their child's learning, they can have them connected as well. They just simply would use the same handout to do that. If you go the email route, you can copy this email and paste it into however you send emails home to families, and they can connect that way as well. So super, super easy. And then when you go into your wrench icon and you go down here to manage students, this will also show you, like if I go into Karina, it will say here the parents that you have connected once there are families connected. So keep that in mind. Let's keep going. I want to talk about something I'm super excited about. How do you actually get started with this? So right now we are literally putting the polishes on our getting started guides. These are going to be available for each grade level. That includes a teacher checklist, Seesaw student challenges, and certificates for your students as well. They are, like I said, they are in their final stages and will be available at ideas.seesaw.me really, really soon. So keep an eye out for that. But I want to talk about implementing Seesaw with students. And as part of the Getting Started Guide, we have Seesaw Student Challenges. And like I said, these are going to be for each specific grade level, and they are finalized within the next couple of days. So we're just doing our final edits, but because we're so excited, I thought I want to show you I'll give you a little sneak peek. So I'm going to click into the first grade one, what it's looking like right now. So you'll see here we have our student challenge for first grade. It walks you through a little video if you haven't created your class. But then basically these are your step-by-step lessons to use with your students to get started with Seesaw. These are quick, easy lessons that might take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, depending on what you're doing in your classroom. And that's not just 15 minutes of doing some separate thing. It's going to be already embedded with what you're doing in your class. So we start with, of course, the purpose. Why are you using Seesaw in your classroom? Start with that. We go into lesson 2. We let students choose their own icons. That helps build their ownership. In lesson 3, we review the proper handling of devices. I think in a classroom, especially if you're using shared devices like my classroom was, there's some tips we give you for making that most successful. We've included all sorts of pages of printouts that you can use. And then lesson 4 is your step-by-step for your students adding their first post to Seesaw. So we break it down. This is, you know, for first grade. So it's really broken down step by step by step, how you can teach them, you know, to be adding this content. Then we build into other, you know, aspects of Seesaw. So instead of maybe just taking a photo, in lesson 8, we're talking about using the microphone. So we're adding photo with voice. We talk about setting up recording spots in your classroom if you want to do that. That's, again, these are teacher tested tips. These come from me being in the classroom, Julie being in the classroom, our teacher community that is inspired with Seesaw each day. These ideas are coming from teachers that have been there and done that and in your position right now. So we have some examples of using Seesaw with writing. We have some awesome task cards that go step by step for, you know, you can have this printed out for your students, or as a new teacher, these are super helpful as well. So this is a peek at the student challenge for first grade. I'm going to go into the 6th to 8th grade student challenge because it's similar, but again, we're working with older students, so it's a little bit different in terms of the pacing. So again, we start, of course, with the purpose, but then we also talk about getting them connected to their class because they're most likely using Google or email sign-in. We talk about them creating their own icon and how you do that. Maybe they don't want to use the Seesaw emoji, so we give options there. Then we have them go into adding a photo with labels to describe themselves. We talk about digital citizenship earlier with our bigger kids. And then we give you all sorts of ideas for using the video tool. Maybe you are doing some exit tickets. We also talk about uploading content from Google Drive, Dropbox, and iCloud. So again, this is really a complete plan for you to feel confident that this is the roadmap I can follow to get my students seesawing. So like I said, these are in the final stages of getting completed. So you're gonna wanna stay tuned for when these are actually available to all of you. So get ready for that, we're super excited. The task cards though, however, that are part of our student challenges, we actually have those available for you right now in our ideas.seesaw.me. You can also click this link when you get the slides. So the one thing I always like to note with people that are starting Seesaw is I like to remind you that if you're using a QR code sign-in for your class, that sign-in poster really is for only your classroom. Keep that private and don't ever post that on social media. When you get started with Seesaw, in the Seesaw Student Challenges, we talk about promoting reflection. So as students are able to add work to Seesaw, we start to reflect and think about what work are we adding to. If you're working with younger students, we use the term wow work, so this is a great resource for you to check out as well. And then I also like teachers to start thinking about how can I use Seesaw throughout my day in my classroom with the things I'm already doing. Because I guarantee this isn't going to be something extra. It's going to really be embedded into what you're doing in your classroom already. If you want to start using folders, that's something you might think about after you get started with Seesaw. So again, you don't need this really from the get-go. This is something you might think about adding later. And also just to kind of put this bug in your ear, Seesaw works so great with all of these other digital creation tools that you're already using. Work can just go right into Seesaw from all of these different apps and websites. So keep that in mind as well. If you are interested in Seesaw for Schools, this is a great way to build comprehensive records of student learning from K-12. You're able to assess student progress towards standards, and you have your admins have this great dashboard that really gives actionable data in one centralized location. So if you want more info about Seesaw for Schools, that's on our website. So definitely check that out. Julie, I think we have a few moments for questions. So let's dig into those questions here.
Hi there. I have a couple of really good ones for you. I've had a lot of people ask about parent invitations in other languages. So can you talk about what's all available in other languages?
Yeah, so we are actually working right now on making them available in more languages. Currently on our website, I know we have Spanish, French, I believe we even have Chinese as well on our website. But more and more languages will be coming, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, another good question here has to do with the sign-in mode. And
Yep.
maybe you could explain maybe about why a person would or wouldn't want to frequently change back and forth from QR code to email sign-in, like on a
Oh
day.
yeah, yeah. You're not gonna want to do that. So basically, you can make it a decision. How do you want your students signing in? So in most cases, students will only choose one sign. You know, you as a teacher will have one sign-in mode. So either it will be email Google sign-in or QR sign-in. There have been cases where teachers want both options, and that can happen. That's just a little bit more complicated in terms of getting that set up. So in reality, think about your students, your age of your students, and what you want them to do and what they're capable of, and choose from that.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful. Another thing we've been talking about too is the text code and like the QR code. How frequently do those change when your students need those to sign in?
Perfect. So if you're creating a class at the K3, pre-K3 level, It's automatically going to be a QR sign-in class unless you change it to email sign-in. So that QR code never expires. It stays the same. You can generate a text code for that class that would last for 1 hour. So that's QR class. If you're using email Google sign-in, the join code for that class will last 7 days. So that's only needed for your students to join the class on their very first initial moment of joining. After they join an email Google class, they just sign in with their email address and password after that.
Okay, another question that just came in that might be helpful to address too is how you can make your blog like private, or how you decide if you want it to be available to more people on the internet.
Absolutely. So when you are creating your Seesaw blog, it's actually going to ask you all of those questions. So you'll have the choice of keeping it private, password protected, or if you want it to be public on the internet. So that's a choice you'll make as you're setting up the blog. And once you tap blog, it's going to walk you through all of those steps. I'm looking at the time right now, and I want to respect everyone's time for attending, but I also want you to know that Julie and I are going to hang out here for a few more minutes to answer all the questions that you have. But I want you to know that there's a survey that's going to come here at the end of this presentation, and please take time to fill out that survey. We do look at those, and we pick a t-shirt winner from our webinar attendees for the week. So fill that out. That helps us know what you want in upcoming webinars or what was helpful. So please fill out that survey, and please come back for more PD in your PJs.